in implementing the policy. So one, you have the policy levels, and the other is the implementation part. That is something that we have to look into as well. But eventually, I suppose, we have to educate the public. We have to educate the public. The educations come with it, come from individual, family, and of course in the public sphere. So perhaps, if I may suggest that for a start, other than the commissions we set up, probably we have some steering committee or some agency like focal points for the gender focal points in all ministries that we should have, and in all levels of the government. Ladies and gentlemen, just allow me finally, I believe in one thing. If you are a God-loving man, if you are a God-fearing man, either way, we are all children of God. God do not create human beings of different ethnic backgrounds to hate each other. Okay, God wouldn't do that, and that would be not a good God to have. So God actually, any universal teaching, any universal value, emphasize on love and compassion, not only within your own ethnic communities, but also about other communities. So if we shouldn't second guess why God's created so many ethnic communities, so many languages, so many different heritage and traditions, but that is something that we should celebrate together, and that is a diversity that we should cherish. So, one life, final word, no God. I don't think no God would teach you to dislike others. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you have a very good forum today, and I hope to have really I'm sorry that I cannot join you for the whole morning or until the afternoon. I have another program to rush, and I hope everybody have a very exciting, very thought-provoking and intellectual learning session. With that, thank you very much.
Thank you, YB. I would like to invite Mr. Lim Chi Wee up on stage to present a token of appreciation to YB Gan. Thank you, Mr. Lim and YB Gan. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now the time we have all been waiting for. Let us now invite Dato Ambiga Sreenevasan, moderator of the forum today, to begin this forum proper.
May I invite the speakers up on stage? Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the forum this morning. Last December, the Minister, Dato Sri Nazri, announced that they would be introducing a race relations law in March. Now we know it's not going to happen. That was the reason for the forum, but nevertheless, it may happen at some point. So I think it's important that we talk about the possibilities in relation to the race relations laws. I think our speakers today will be addressing or will be giving their view as to whether or not we ought to have a race relations law. So without much ado, I will proceed to the speakers, but before that, let me just explain the format of this morning's discussion. Each of the speakers will speak for about 10 to 15 minutes on the subject, after which I will address certain questions to them, a few questions. Subsequently, I will turn the forum over to the floor and you can ask your questions of the speakers. I hope we have enough time. Richard, we have to 1, do we? We have to 1 o'clock, and I'm sure, you know, don't spare them, huh? They can all handle it. So don't spare them your questions. Without much ado, let me invite the first speaker, Dr. Azmi Sharom. Really doesn't need introduction, Associate Professor from University Malaya. Thank you. Azmi, you could.
The minister is very short. Thank you, Rick, for organizing this talk at such an ungodly hour. Right, I have to stand up because if I sit down, I'll fall asleep. So, yeah, I spoke about the Race Relations Act, I think about 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, and my view hasn't really changed since then. It's very, it's very odd for me to say this, but I find myself actually in agreement with a Barisan National politician just now, when he said there's the issue of norm setting. Now, the problem I find in this country with regards to race relations, if you are going to have a Race Relations Act, what are our underlying values in governance? Okay? Let's not talk about what we do at home and stuff like that. But if we look at our system, my contention is that already we have a problem, because our system of governance inherently has race-based issues and matters in it. I would be reluctant to actually call it racist, but if we look at our constitution, for example, race is all over the place. Yeah? Instead of saying everybody is equal, you have provisions which are decidedly unequal. All right? And I'm sure I don't have to go into it in detail. You know, if you just look at Article 8F, 85F, right, which is about the Malay regiment, you know, already you have a portion of the military where only Malay people can join, you know, and 153, of course, everybody knows. And the state constitutions, if you look at the state constitutions, there are provisions in many of the state constitutions where the first choice for the Menteri Besar has to be Malay Muslim. And you know, already there's a presumption of a racial bias. So it's deep within in our system of governance, in our system of laws. So if you have a Race Relations Act which exists within the system, how can we expect fairness? How can we expect ultimately justice? I'm dubious, you know, of whether this can occur. But my dubiousness goes beyond just the legal system itself. It goes beyond just the constitution. See, because the thing is, if we look at issues like equality, you know, philosophically, and this is a dirty word in Malaysia, nobody thinks about philosophy, but philosophically, you have concepts like formal equality and substantive equality. And you will find, for example, formal equality is where everybody is equal. It's the government's job to make sure that everybody is treated equally, and equally is equated as same. You know, everybody should be treated the same. Then you have substantive equality, where you take into account that people are different, and there is a need for different treatment. Yeah? So, for example, people who are disabled will be treated differently, but not because of anything, but because they deserve to be treated differently. Yeah? They deserve to have special laws with regards to buildings, for example, yeah? The accessibility, right? So, and the idea of positive discrimination or affirmative action, it is not inherently a bad idea, right? In fact, it's perfectly acceptable even at international level. However, and here's the crux of the matter for me, any such action, when we treat people unequally, when we treat people in different manners, there has to be some sort of foundation. There has to be some ethos which holds us back from making this treatment a treatment which is unjust. Because, for example, if you want to have affirmative action, there has to be an objective and reasonable justification for it. And this objective and reasonable justification must exist within a democratic context. That is to say, it's not good enough for us to just listen to our leaders and say, oh, I have a good reason to do this. No, we have to be able to debate your reasons, right? And already we see here in this country, they don't allow us to debate. So what are you talking about here? You know, so you have a situation where it is the government who will say, oh, well, you know, we're doing this because we have our reasons for it, but you can't talk about our reasons. So it exists. Fundamentally, it's not a bad thing, I think, right? Affirmative action is not fundamentally a bad thing, but it exists within a context which is non-democratic. And because it exists within a context which is non-democratic, all right, abuse is likely, in fact, it has happened. Okay? And it cannot be avoided. There has to be a legitimate aim. There has to be proportionality. Yeah? So if you're going to treat people unequally, there has to be all these things has to be included in your thinking. All right? And that's another dirty word in Malaysia, thinking. But ultimately, the most important thing is that there must be a presumption in favor of the right. There must be a presumption in favor of equality. That has to be the underlying ethos. That this is what we want, everybody to be treated fairly and equally. But it is up to the government to justify why we are treated differently. It is not for us to justify why we should be treated equally. It is up to them to justify why we shouldn't be treated equally. Now, I don't see any of this. I don't see any of this. So, for me, the problem is twofold. One, it's systemic. Right? The issues of race, I mean, if you want to talk about race relations, right, but then your entire system is so race-based. The law, the politics of this country, it's also race-based. So that's one, systemically, right? The system itself. And then secondly, the people who run the system have no philosophy and have no idealism and have no aspiration to actual equality. So when you combine these two, for me, it's a road to disaster. And no race relation act is going to fix anything. In fact, it's probably going to make things a lot worse. Right? So that's my 5-7 minutes worth. All right. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to address them. Hopefully, I will be a little bit more awake when that happens. So for now, I shall leave it to the rest of my colleagues. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Azmi. Thank you. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I invite Syahredzan, who is the chair of the My Consti Committee of the Bar Council, to share his views.
Azmi is very tall. Just bear with me. When I was asked to come and be a speaker at this panel, I was told that it was going to be a hard talk style where questions will be posed by the moderator and basically we just answer. That means the preparation involved is not so much. And then suddenly, I think yesterday, I was told by the organizers that I actually have to give a 10-minute speech. So I had to wake up early today, prepare myself, prepare a 10-minute speech, and hopefully not embarrass myself in the process. Okay, so race relation laws. Now we know so far it's going to be dead in the water. But back in December, the government through the Minister of the de facto law minister, Dato announced that there's going to be this race relations bill, which was supposed to be tabled in the Dewan Rakyat in March. March has come and gone. And from the news report, this law was supposed to be one of two laws enacted to replace the ISA. And according to the minister,
this law is supposed to regulate relations between the various races. And crucially, it says that this law is modeled after the UK Race Relations Act. Now, if I can just read the news report. Basically, in the interview, the minister said that since the Prime Minister had pledged to abolish the ISA, this law will be enacted. And he said that in developed countries, there are laws such as this to govern race relations, and he quoted a particular instance in which John Terry of a small club named Chelsea was charged and fined £4,000 for racially aggravated public offence. Then he said that this law is supposed to basically regulate the relationship between the various races. Now, as I mentioned, crucially, the minister said that this law will be based on the UK Race Relations Act. Now, the UK Race Relations Act is actually an anti-discrimination legislation. It is not a legislation to penalize or to sanction people who incite racial feelings or racism. Okay, there's a difference. So when we talk about enacting race relation laws in Malaysia, and we say that we want to replace it, we want to replace the ISA with these two new laws, what are we saying actually? Are we looking at an anti-discrimination law, or are we looking at laws to criminalize the propagation of racial feelings or racial hatred between the masses? I think that is important. Because if you look at the UK laws, for example, the Race Relation Act, as I mentioned, is an anti-discrimination act. It prevents discrimination on grounds of race, and it includes color, nationality, ethnic origin, and national origin. If you look at the Public Order Act, for example, there is actually a section, this is the UK, there's actually a section on inciting racial hatred. And this act creates offences in which if you use words or behaviour or display written material which are racial in nature, you can be penalised. And also under the Crime and Disorder Act 1998, there are also offences for aggravated racial aggravation in normal offences. So meaning if you beat up someone and your motivations are racial, then there is a separate offence as separate from if you just beat him up because you don't like his face. So that's the UK situation. So when we talk about that, what are we talking about really? Are we talking about trying to eliminate discrimination between the races, or are we talking about criminalizing acts which vilify the races? And even more importantly, the Race Relation Act in the UK has now been repealed, and it has been replaced with the Equality Act of 2010, which is broader than the Race Relations Act, which it replaced. It talks about eliminating discrimination between races, religion, gender, and all sorts of different classes. So, again, I go back. What are we trying to achieve here? What is the mischief that we're trying to remedy here? Is it that we feel that certain people are being discriminated? Or is it we feel that there are a lot of people who talk about and create tensions between the races? Because if you're talking about discrimination, we don't actually need, to me, we don't actually need a new law. Because the Federal Constitution, despite what Azmi has said, but the Federal Constitution generally provides that everyone is equal before the law, and there's equal protection of the law. And of course, you can argue that in practice this may not be the case, but you don't need laws to affirm that. It's already there. It's the highest law of the land. It says that we're all equal before the law, save in certain circumstances. And then if you talk about trying to criminalize the act of creating racial tensions, people have argued that, I think Mr. Lim Chi has also mentioned, for example, in the penal code, there are sections to talk about or create offences where you create feeling of, or where offences relating to religion, for example. The cowboy protesters in Shah Alam were charged under one of the sections in the penal code. Under the Sedition Act, notwithstanding the fact that the Malaysian bar's position is that the Sedition Act should be repealed, there is, under the term seditious tendency, there is a section in which seditious tendency also includes creating feelings of animosity between different races. So it's all there. And I would argue that we don't actually need laws to regulate all this. The problem, you can create all the laws in the world, but the main crux of the problem, if we do not solve it, no laws can be adequate. And what is the main problem? To me, the main problem is acceptance. It's acceptance. We talk about one Malaysia, we talk about, we try to show that, you know, we are a truly Asian country, we go outside and we show all these different cultures and all that, but we are actually a deeply divided society. We are deeply divided by race, by religion, by class, by everything. And these divisions have been aggravated for the past few years by certain parties, by certain individuals, for whatever reasons. And so we have this problem. There's always been this prejudice, this distrust amongst ourselves. People might say, look, we can sit here and talk about all this. But let's remember one thing. Do you think that this is Malaysia? Is this the only Malaysia out there? No. Another example, Section 23, when the cowboy protests occurred. That's an urban area. Okay, it's maybe one ethnicity had a majority there, but there's still a sizable minority over there. But still, if you look at the justifications that have come out, why the temple should not be there, you'd weep for Malaysia. Look at the justification. This is a majority area. We shouldn't. Why should we have a temple in a Muslim majority area? Since when is the having a place of worship depends on whether you have a majority or not? There's even some who say that, oh, the federal constitution says that you cannot have a temple in a Muslim majority area. Show me. So these divisions have been aggravated. Already before this, we have problems accepting each other. Okay? We cannot put past the fact that, oh, that guy is Malay, that guy is Chinese, that guy is Indian. We cannot put that past us. And now it's been aggravated more and more. So we need to start accepting each other actually. We need to accept that, look, we are all in it together. We have a common destiny. We are bound together by a singular constitution. Regardless of what your name is, whether you have a bin, okay, what color your skin is, it doesn't matter. Because if this country fails, we all fail. Some of us may be able to run away if this country fails, okay, to go somewhere else. But for the majority of us, this is the only country we know. So why is it that we keep on harping these differences? At the end of it, there's a Malay saying, rambut sama hitam, hati lain-lain lah. But rambut sama hitam, well, most of us would have black hair. You know, it's all the same. We're all the same. Why do we keep on harping these differences when actually there are more similarities? When I studied in the UK, for example, over there, the fact that we're Malay, Chinese, Indian, Iban, Kadazan is not so prominent. Over there, we're all Malaysians. Okay, so we all will insult the Quailos using VM, and we all will think of how it was back in Malaysia, you know, the nasi lemak and all that. Why is it that over there we can have these feelings, but when we come back here, we go back to our enclaves, we go back to our mindsets? So this is a far bigger problem. We need basically a change in mentality, and no laws can regulate this, because it must come from us. Okay, you can blame the politicians all you want, but if in private you keep perpetuating these divisions, you keep looking at the floor as that Natakarai or that Chinese person, the Indian person, whatever. Okay, if you keep perpetuating these differences, no laws can be adequate. So I think I've said enough. We'll discuss this a bit more later. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shah. I now call upon Faisal. Faisal is a young lawyer with strong views. He goes by the Twitter handle McFaisal, by the way, so you can discuss these issues with him on Twitter as well. Over to you, Faisal.
Thank you, Dato Ambiga. And before I start, let me just extend my heartfelt thanks to the National Young Lawyers Committee for having me over for this forum. But in particular also to Richard, for also keep reminding me that this is live streaming on internet, so I shouldn't say certain words like, for example, which I will not say right now. And ladies and gentlemen, learned friends of the bar, thank you very much for being present. Hard to talk, having to speak after those two speakers, distinguished panelists, but I'll try and add what I can. Now, I'm not here to tell you whether we need the law or not. It is up to you to make up your mind whether we actually need the law. But I will tell you what my position is in respect of that law. And what I will also tell you is, I hope to take away from this forum today even more than what I'm able to give. So this is really a forum that is involving all of us. It's not just about us, three panelists, and of course the moderator here telling you what you should think. But rather we are just giving you the background, and we hope at the end of this forum you all go back a little bit more clearer as to whether we need a Race Relations Act in this country. But why is it the issue of race is very important? Why is it touches a raw nerve more than any other thing? I think I cannot say it any better than what has been said by Albert Luthuli, who was the South Africa nationalist leader back in the 70s. And he said this: do not deceive yourself into thinking that racialism is just another tyranny, like political or religious tyranny. I know many men who have changed their religion and many who have changed their politics, but I know of no man who has ever changed his race. And that is the way to Armageddon, for racialism is the only absolute tyranny. I think he has a point there. I mean, if discrimination occurs for various other reasons, of course it's not right for you to having to change that reason in which discrimination occurs in itself. But there is always that room for you to be someone else. But the race that you are born in, and the race that we are all born in, we are stuck with it for life. Now, let me just, however, ask you a few questions. Having said and having heard from this great man, is it okay for a person to commit a murder? You'll definitely say no. But why is it's worse when a person commits a murder in the name of race? I don't know the answer, right? But these are some of the issues that we need to think about. For example, we have situation where Stalin, for example, during the USSR era, killed more people, probably more people, than the Nazis annihilated during the Holocaust. Of course, we are not saying that one is better over the other, but our reaction towards this kind of events are mostly shaped because there's element of race or racism that is involved in the case of Nazmi. So it goes to the point that when it comes